I knew something was wrong the moment my mother tapped her glass. Not the polite kind of tap you use to ask for attention, but the sharp, intentional kind she reserved for moments she wanted scripted. Her smile was already set, bright, rehearsed, stretched a little too tight like she'd practiced it in the bathroom mirror before I arrived. Everyone turned toward her. They always did. And every single time, the next set of eyes would swing toward Lily. That was the rhythm of our family. Mom calls, everyone looks, Lily shines. She raised her glass. Sister's wedding was great. Her voice carried across the table like she wanted the neighbors to hear. So, Kat, when's yours? A few people laughed. My father kept carving turkey like the meat was going to run away if he stopped. Lily didn't say a word. She didn't even look up. She just kept her eyes on her plate, too focused, too careful. That was the first crack. I set my fork down. I already had mine. 6 months ago. Silence hit the room with the force of a dropped plate. You could hear the candle flame flicker. My mother's smile wavered. My father finally stopped cutting and stared at the knife like it might explain something. We never got any invitations, his voice a quiet, confused whisper. And, just like that, the script they'd planned fell apart. I reached into my bag, slow and steady, not for drama, but because I wanted to savor the honesty of their confusion. For years, I let them rewrite me, minimize me, smooth out the edges of my life to keep Lily centered in the family frame. But tonight the truth was sitting warm and heavy in my bag, waiting. Before I pulled anything out, something inside me cracked open. A memory, uninvited but sharp. Growing up, my family loved symmetry. Perfect photos. Perfect milestones. Perfect stories to tell other people. And all of those stories had one common feature, Lily in the center, me a few steps off to the side. When she won a dance recital, family dinner. When she got into cheer, party. When she hung a new set of awards in the hallway, Mom made cupcakes. When I won the science fair, Mom glanced at the ribbon and said, "Let's wait until golden hour for pictures." I need good lighting for Lily's headshot first. So I adapted. I learned to fold myself small. To watch. To anticipate. To be quiet. And they rewarded me for it the only way they knew how, by forgetting I was there unless they needed contrast to make Lily shine brighter. Seattle was the first place I could breathe, without checking if it messed up Lily's air. Moving 3 hours away wasn't rebellion, it was oxygen. A small apartment with tall windows, paper everywhere, stacks of research notes on water systems and environmental models. A job nobody bragged about but one that mattered to me. A life that felt like mine. And Ethan. Ethan saw me before I even understood I'd been invisible. The first time he brought me home to meet his parents, his mother hugged me so tight I felt something in my chest jolt. She didn't let go fast like my mother, as if affection was a task checked off. She held on. She meant it. His father remembered details about my work. His mother asked for updates. They didn't celebrate me for how I made them look. They celebrated me because they cared. So when Ethan proposed on a foggy June morning by the water, the world felt aligned for the first time in my life. We planned a small wedding. Simple, intimate, real. The only thing I wanted quietly, stubbornly, was for my family to show up and finally see me. I designed the invitations myself. Elegant, minimal, with a soft blue border and our initials intertwined. I mailed them early, signature required, because I knew how things got misplaced in that house. Delivered. Signed. Confirmed. And yet, the silence afterward was deafening. No call. No text. Not a single reaction in the family group chat. It was like I'd never mailed anything at all. For weeks, I told myself stories to avoid the truth. Maybe they got mixed up. Maybe they were planning something special. Maybe they didn't know what to say. But deep down, I knew. I'd always known. One night, while washing dishes beside Ethan, I tried to sound casual. Maybe the invitations just got lost, maybe. He dried his hands. Kat, did they ever respond? At all? I shook my head. Not once. He didn't push. He just murmured, "Let's check the logs." I didn't even know you could do that. But he guided me through email records, postal receipts, signature confirmations. And suddenly, there it was. One invitation email opened. Deleted. Permanently erased. Only one person in that house had ever managed the inbox, sorted the mail, handled everyone's schedules. Lily. My stomach burned as the pieces fell into place. Every memory, every moment, every time she'd intercepted something that was meant for me. But I needed proof. So I pulled up the tracking receipts. For packages. For signatures. The same looping handwriting at the bottom. Lily. Her signature carved into the truth like she wanted to leave no doubt. Back at the Thanksgiving table, I felt that memory like a pulse under my skin. My father's whisper still hung in the air. We never got any invitations. This time, I didn't swallow it. I reached into my bag, placed my phone on the table, and the screen lit up cold, glowing, sharp. Every eye snapped toward it. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of being seen. I stared at her, stunned, but she only tilted her head, studying me like I was a puzzle she had already solved. The room felt suddenly smaller, warmer, like the walls themselves were leaning in to listen. I could hear Uncle Ray shifting in his chair, pretending to cough just to break the tension, but Grace didn't even blink. She just kept smiling, that too perfect smile, the kind you wear when you're about to flip someone's entire world upside down and you already know they can't stop you. Fine, I whispered, barely loud enough for her to hear. What's your question? Her eyes lit up like she'd been waiting for permission. She tapped her glass again, soft this time, but the sound still sliced through the room. And then she said it. That question. The one that pulled the floor out from under me. How long have you been lying to us? My fork slipped from my hand and clattered against the plate. Every face swung toward me. My mother's lips parted. My father froze halfway through cutting his turkey, knife hovering in midair. Even Mark, the golden boy, stopped smiling. Lying about what? My voice came out sharper than I meant, more defensive, and that was all Grace needed. She leaned back comfortably, one arm draped over the chair, like this was her show and the spotlight had just warmed up. Don't play innocent, she murmured. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But I didn't. God, I didn't. Or maybe I did, but not in the way she meant, not in the way she was twisting it. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. 100 possible disasters flashed through my mind, debts, mistakes, secrets I never thought would leave the shadows. My lungs felt tight. Grace, seriously, what are you doing? She grinned. Oh, just telling the truth. Someone has to, right? I watched her raise her glass, and my stomach dropped because I realized she wasn't just ready, she was excited. Excited to tear me open. Excited to watch everyone else see the version of me she believed was real. Mom reached out as if to stop her. Grace, sweetie, maybe this isn't. No, Mom. Tonight is perfect. She turned back to me. Do you want to tell them, or should I? My throat dried. Tell them what? She let out a soft laugh. Just one breath, but it was enough to curdle the entire room. My sister had rehearsed this. Every word, every gesture, every pause. She was performing. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't dealing with the same Grace I grew up with. This version of her was sharper, hungrier, calculated in a way I didn't recognize, or maybe in a way I'd always ignored. She reached into her purse, and I swear the air chilled around me. She pulled out a folded sheet of paper, crisp, white, deliberate. She placed it in front of her plate and slid it forward with 2 fingers. You should probably read that. My hands felt numb as I reached for the paper. The whole table watched me as if waiting for a bomb to detonate. I unfolded it slowly, terrified of what I'd find, some bill, some letter, some record she dug up just to ruin me. But the moment I saw the heading, my stomach flipped. It was a bank statement. My bank statement. With transactions I didn't recognize. Withdrawals. Transfers. Thousands of dollars I'd never touched. A signature that looked like mine but wasn't. My chest tightened so fast I thought I'd stop breathing. My voice cracked. Grace, what is this? Her smile widened, slow and triumphant. Proof. I looked up sharply. Proof of what? That you've been stealing from Mom and Dad. The room exploded with gasps. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's chair screeched against the floor as he stood abruptly. Mark muttered something under his breath, something like unbelievable. My legs felt weak. I shook my head so fast I felt dizzy. No. No, Grace, this isn't mine. This isn't real. I never. She clicked her tongue softly, mocking me. Come on, you can drop the act now. We all know you're always desperate for money. The words sliced into me. Desperate. Failure. The family screw-up. The one who never measured up to Mark. I felt a familiar heat rising in my chest, shame, anger, betrayal all tangled together. I tried to speak, but the words came out strangled. I didn't do this. She leaned forward, lowering her voice as if confiding in everyone at once. You forged their signatures. You transferred their savings to your personal account. And you thought no one would notice until it was too late. But lucky for us, I did. My chair scraped back as I stood, heart pounding, vision blurring at the edges. I slammed the statement onto the table. This is fake. Grace only shrugged, completely unbothered. Sure, if that's the story you want to stick with. But the bank confirmed it. You want me to show you the emails? My mother's voice cracked. Is that true? Did the bank really? Ask them yourself, Grace said softly, like she'd already won. My father's face was unreadable, carved from stone. We'll look into this. Immediately. Grace smiled sweetly. Of course. I already made an appointment for tomorrow morning. The realization hit me in the gut. She had planned everything. Right down to the timing, the outrage, the witnesses. My world was collapsing, and she was enjoying every second. I pressed my palms against the table, trying to steady my breathing. This was a trap. A perfect, meticulous trap. But why? What did she gain from destroying me? Grace watched me, her eyes cold and glittering, and whispered just loud enough for me to hear. This is only the beginning. The words lingered in the air like poison. And for the first time that night, I believed her. I stood there trembling, my fingers still pressed into the table, but the room felt tilted now, like gravity had shifted toward Grace, and I was sliding helplessly into whatever nightmare she'd built for me. I could feel everyone watching me, judging me, deciding who I was based on a piece of paper that didn't even belong to me. I kept trying to swallow, but my throat was too tight. My pulse thudded in my ears, drowning out everything except the echo of her words. This is only the beginning. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear that smug smile off her face. But more than anything, I wanted to understand how the hell she had turned my entire family against me in a single breath. My father had already sat back down, shoulders slumped, running a hand over his jaw in that slow, disappointed way that made my stomach twist. My mother wasn't even looking at me anymore. She was staring straight ahead, blinking too fast, like someone who'd just witnessed a car crash and wasn't sure who to blame yet. And Mark. Mark was staring at me with a mixture of confusion and something uglier, maybe satisfaction, maybe relief that for once the family spotlight wasn't on him. Grace folded her hands and rested her chin on them like this was some cozy after-dinner chat. She was glowing. She had never looked happier. I forced myself to breathe. One inhale. One exhale. Then I turned toward her slowly. Why? My voice cracked on the word. What the hell do you get out of this? She blinked innocently. Out of what? You know damn well what. You forged this. You set this whole thing up. She actually laughed, a small, soft, infuriating sound. That's ridiculous. I felt heat surge through my skin. Ridiculous? Grace, nothing on this statement matches my actual account. The dates are wrong. The amounts are wrong. The signature, look at it. It doesn't even. She cut me off with a shrug. Maybe you're just a bad liar. Something inside me snapped. I stepped toward her without thinking, and she flinched back just enough to let everyone see it. Immediately Mark stood up. Hey, back off. I froze. Grace flashed Mark a grateful look, like she had predicted this exact moment and rehearsed her reaction in the mirror. I took another step back, raising my hands. I'm not touching anyone. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm trying to figure out why my sister is framing me. A heavy silence dropped over the table. Then Grace sighed dramatically, as if this was all exhausting for her. You know what? Fine. If you won't admit it, then maybe we should talk about the other thing. My heart lurched. What other thing? She smiled. The real reason you're desperate for money. I felt the blood drain from my face. Grace studied my reaction carefully, savoring it, letting everyone else notice it too before she leaned back and crossed her legs. Maybe we should talk about your little problem. The air left my lungs. My mother looked at me with wide, pleading eyes. My father stiffened. Mark stared hard, waiting for me to explode. Problem? I forced myself to say. What problem? Grace tilted her head. That debt collector who's been calling you nonstop. The one you've been ignoring. The one who threatened legal action. Should I pull up the voicemail? I could play it for everyone right now. My stomach twisted. She knew. She knew about the calls. She knew about the debt I'd been trying to crawl out from under quietly, painfully, without dragging anyone else into it. But she didn't just know, she was weaponizing it. How did you, Grace? Seriously, how do you know about that? She smiled sweetly. I have my ways. You hacked into my phone? She shrugged again, tapping her nails against the glass. Who cares? What matters is that you needed money. And then Mom and Dad's savings mysteriously disappeared. Do the math. I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs. I wanted to shake the table. But my whole body felt heavy now, like the truth, my truth, was sinking in concrete while Grace painted her own version over it in bright, confident strokes. Mom whispered, barely audible, you should have told us. My eyes burned instantly. Told you? Told you what? That I'm trying to survive? That I'm drowning in bills because I've been too ashamed to ask for help? That I didn't want to be the disappointment everyone already thinks I am? Grace smirked. There it is. I snapped my head toward her. There what is? The guilt. My father stood again, slowly this time, as if the weight of the entire situation had finally settled into his bones. He placed both hands on the table and looked straight at me. We will let the bank determine the truth. Until then, you're not to access their accounts. At all. Understood? My chest caved inward. You're siding with her? We're not siding with anyone, he muttered. But he was. They all were. Grace had wrapped them around her finger with a single sheet of paper and a handful of rehearsed lies. I took a shaky breath, fighting the urge to break down. I looked at my sister. At the little smirk tugging at her lips. At the victory glowing in her eyes. And then I realized something. This wasn't a spontaneous attack. This was a setup months in the making. She had planned every piece of it, for a reason. I lowered my voice, trembling. What do you want from me? Grace's smile faded into something colder, something final. I just want you gone. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. Gone from the table? Gone from the house? Or gone from the family entirely? She didn't clarify. She didn't have to. Because the moment she whispered it, I felt the truth settle into my bones. My sister wasn't trying to expose me. She was trying to erase me. Gone. She said it so calmly, like she was discussing the weather, like erasing me was just another item on her perfectly curated to-do list. For a moment I couldn't move. Couldn't blink. Couldn't even breathe. The word wrapped around my chest like a fist. I stared at her, really stared, and something shifted inside me. Something that had been stretched thin for years finally snapped. I looked around the table at the people who were supposed to be my safety net, my history, my proof that I belong somewhere in this world, and all I saw was doubt. Suspicion. Distance that hadn't existed 2 hours ago. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother kept dabbing the corner of her mouth with her napkin, even though nothing was there. And Mark, he watched me like I was something dangerous he hoped wouldn't explode. Grace leaned back, satisfied, swirling her wine. Her knee bounced slowly under the table, the only sign of excitement she couldn't hide. She was thrilled. She had orchestrated every second of this ambush, and she wanted me to feel the final blow. Fine, I whispered. If you want me gone, I'll go. Grace froze mid-sip. She clearly expected me to fight, to beg, to fall apart in front of everyone. My quiet surrender seemed to unsettle her. I pushed my chair back. The legs screeched against the hardwood, cutting through the silence like a blade. My mother's voice cracked. Wait, please, let's just calm down. I shook my head. Calm down? You think this is something we can calm down from? You think this is normal? Grace scoffed softly, but there was tension in her jaw now. Oh, don't be dramatic. Dramatic? Grace, you just framed me for theft. You invaded my privacy. You humiliated me in front of the entire family. And for what? She didn't answer. Her silence told the truth before she ever could. I stepped toward the hallway, but something inside me refused to let this be the ending she wanted. I turned back to face her. You did all of this because you're scared. Everyone looked at her. She blinked, confused for the first time all evening. Excuse me? You heard me. She let out a short laugh, but it came out tight. And what exactly am I scared of? Me. The room went still. Grace's eyebrows lifted in disbelief. Scared of you? Yes. I said it quietly, but the weight behind it hit her like a shove. Because you've spent your whole life pretending you're the perfect one. The favorite. The one who gets everything right. But the second I started getting my life together, the second I stopped being the screw-up you could measure yourself against, you panicked. Her jaw twitched. You needed me to stay small, Grace. You needed me to be the failure so you could stay the star. She didn't blink. Didn't breathe. And that's when I knew I'd hit the truth she never wanted exposed. I turned away again, grabbing my coat from the chair. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. Not anymore. Something else was taking over, something like clarity. Like strength I forgot I even had. My father finally spoke, his voice low. Where are you going? Away. You wanted space for the bank to figure things out? Fine. I'll make it easy. I'm leaving tonight. My mother stood halfway from her chair. Please don't go like this. I swallowed hard. I'm not running. I'm protecting myself. And for once, it felt true. I walked toward the front door, but before I stepped out, I looked back at my sister one last time. She was still sitting there, staring at me, but her confidence had cracks in it now, thin fractures spreading like veins under glass. This isn't over, she said softly. I know. I stepped outside, my voice steady for the first time all night. That's why you're scared. The door shut between us with a sharp click. The cold air hit my face, and for a moment I just stood on the porch, gripping the railing while my body trembled with everything I'd been holding back. Anger. Hurt. Betrayal. But underneath all of it, something steadier. Resolve. Because Grace thought she ended me tonight. But all she did was wake me up. I looked back at the house glowing behind me, the house where I'd spent years trying to prove I belonged, the house where my own sister tried to erase me. And I whispered to myself, almost like a promise. I'm not disappearing. Not this time. I walked down the steps, hands clenched, heart pounding, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a failure. I felt like a storm. And she had no idea what was coming. Because family might be blood, but betrayal? Betrayal is motivation. And I had never been more motivated in my life. If you've ever had someone try to bury you, destroy you, rewrite your story without your permission, then you already know how powerful that turning point is. That moment when you decide to rise instead of break. And if you've made it all the way here with me, then you're part of that rise. So before you go, stay with me for the next chapter. Tap the screen, follow the story, and if you want more twisted tales of family, betrayal, and revenge, you know exactly where to find them. Everything gets darker from here, but trust me, it only gets better.